We're good?
We're good.
Well, we are joined by a certain person who is a household name in Australian football, but also, Paul, tell everyone
Odd
who
football.
this man is.
Fernando De Moreas, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here, guys. Thank you.
South Melbourne legend, New Zealand Knights, Phoenix's, predecessor, I guess you call it, or previously named. Welcome.
Thank you.
I feel a little awkward. I'm sitting way too close to you. I might be holding elbows here.
Stay away from me with that shit.
The one other thing
Stay away
is,
from
I've
me.
known Nando for a while. It's funny because he actually played futsal with my brother, or in the sort of youth levels, and I've known of you as a sort of hierarchy in the game, but also as someone who was the leading man in the game of futsal in Australia. But I also know that he hates Corinthians. So there's two sort of things that when I woke up this morning, I said, today I'm going for blood.
Why would you do that? Why would you do
The
that?
mean guy.
I lost so much respect for you right now. It's not funny. It's not funny. But what can we do,
Weird fact, I feel like that every second person in the football scene knows who you are. I have friends of my wives who play state league. They're like, oh, you work with Nando, you work near Nando at Ultra. I'm like, oh my God, how do
My
you guys
dad
know him
knows
as well?
Nando.
See, this is what I mean. Everyone knows Nando.
Like Nando comes up to me and goes, hey, is that your dad? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I know your dad. I'm like, how do you know my dad?
My wife usually says to me, you can be a politician one day because people are going to vote for you.
100%.
You know everyone, you talk to everyone. That's me, I think. I see people and I just go and talk to them. And
Yeah.
I think that's how we meet, one here, another one there. If for me, I love, spending time with people and talking about football. We call in Brazil resenha. Mm-hmm. Everything you talk about football. We can talk about football for hours and hours and hours and meet people and greet people and have a drink. And, that's how we do it. So
The community.
That's good. Yeah. So we got the right guest on the show then, which is good.
It's hard. We speak for hours, and our wives always say, you guys speak for way too long. But every time we see you, good conversations. And today we thought we'll have a good cheeky Nando. And Paul, I know you and I always speak about the sort of the legitimacy of Australian football, mm-hmm. but also people who have come and left their sort of DNA in the game. Tell us a bit of Fernando's stats and anything you want to ask him, because I know you've got a lot of questions you want to ask him.
So you came from Brazil to Australia?
Yes, yes.
From what I understand. And then you started playing for South Melbourne?
Yes. I was trying for Bentley Greens in South Melbourne at the same time.
Yep.
South wanted me, but they didn't know who I was. They wanted a little bit more time to know about me. So I say, what if I don't make that? And I started training with Bentley Greens as well, which was another club that I stayed there. I stayed on both. So I was training the whole week. I remember that I lost about 10 kilos straight away when I came from Brazil, and I was training Monday to Monday, and I was playing 2 friendly games on Saturday and Sunday.
Jeez.
And then lucky the trainings was like Monday at Bentley, Tuesday, and then so on and so on. So
you could give it an
I could
opportunity.
actually go to both. But South ended up signing me, and then that's his history.
So was the reason for coming to Australia to play football?
Yes and no, but my sister moved here with her husband back in 25 years ago. So I gave up football in Brazil. One stage I was trying. Football is for the people that play for the smaller clubs. Almost zero chances to make some money and obviously make it to the next stage or to the next or big clubs. I was getting paid $50 a month, literally. I can't survive like that. So for a while, I try, and then at one stage you say, I'm just gonna find a job, and then move on with life. Then back in the days was VHS, the tapes, and I say,
well, not half the kids here.
Yeah.
We're old enough to
there you go. So I sent a tape to my sister here, and she goes, oh, we know this guy that knows a club here, whatever. Let's see how it goes. And then the club invited me here, and then that was it. So I ended up coming down, and that
incredible.
was
it. And then obviously there was a point where you ended up at Wellington Phoenix, or as previously known.
The question I want to ask, what music did you have behind that?
What do
on
you
the
mean?
VHS? Was it like the,
Oh no, there was no music. Like it wasn't that easy that like it is today. We had commentators, it's got to
yeah,
go,
go, go,
"Hey,
go.
golazo!"
Well,
So
before
yeah.
you moved here, because I know Paul just mentioned the A-League, what like Brazilian football, like what was the sort of level for you at that stage?
I played second division there, second and third division, but the level was amazing. Like you got a million kids trying, and
Yeah.
half of those kids they're not making it. And I remember I used to go to trials for big clubs like São Paulo, Palmeiras and all that, and I used to train and play, and I was like, oh, I feel good today. Today maybe is the day I'm going to make it. And then you sit down and look around, you say, even if I don't make it, that kid, man, that kid's special. Like, he's going to make it.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh, you guys all out? And then one kid that you just didn't even see training or didn't even pay attention, he was like, oh, this kid stays. And then you started realizing that politics, agents, and all that started to come up because there was a lot of people around, suits and all that. And back in the days, they didn't have that. So that's when they started, in the 90s. It was probably 93, 94, 95. So that's when all the agents started going, all right, I got to get those players and start doing, agency and all that.
That's when you were born.
Yeah,
It is,
so
it is when I was born.
there you
That's
go.
still incredible, though.
So-
The fact that you have all these talented players, and it's almost like you're spoilt for choice. And the fact that you would have like a league of second or third divisions of so many good players that just didn't make it, and then like you said, that there's probably a point where you get to say your mid-20s, and you're like, hang on, $50 a month, I can't survive on this. So I'd love to know if there's some sort of stat of players above say X quality that don't play football anymore.
You see those stories of Gabriel Jesus, one of them,
Yeah, exactly. So I was listening to one of the podcasts from the Nilson Show, which is one of the biggest players in Brazil. He's got a podcast. He's bringing out all the 94s, 2002, 98 World Cup players, obviously, and 94 and 2002 winners. And they're telling us the story how they started, because obviously they from my area, and the way they say it was the same. They went to do tests, they went to do trials, and they went through this, they went through that. They were catching bus for 2 hours to go to the game, and then they didn't have a chance. They tried. Cafu played 4 World Cups. He's one of the most prestigious players in Brazil. And he got knocked out about 20, 30 times by São Paulo, Corinthians, Palmeiras, all that. He tried out for about 20 to 30 times. I'm not sure 100% of what's the real number, but that's imagine incredible. To keep going back and keep trying and it's amazing.
And to be known as one of the best defenders or best footballers in the world of all time.
I reckon not many people has his CV around.
No,
So
next to none, really.
He's a god. He's actually a god in Brazil. Like, apart from the strikers, but their area they have Roberto Carlos, Cafu, right and left. It's amazing.
It's
you know what
unheard
I mean?
of almost.
Unbelievable.
So before we move into the A-League and Australian football side of things, if you had to pick one Sao Paulo player of all time that would be your favourite, who would you pick? There's a lot. Like I think off the top of my head, I've got a list here. There's Cafu, Rai, Juninho, Robinho, Socrates. There's a lot there.
Robinho from Santos, Socrates from Corinthians, but Rai is. Yeah. I grew up watching him, and that may make me realize that I love this game, I love this club, and everything he's done for the club was amazing. And he went to PSG after I think he started opening the doors for the players to go overseas. And back in the days they used to go overseas at 25, 26, 27 years old. Yep. They ready for it. Nowadays, you get play at 16, you play a little bit, he's a good prospect.
Yeah, $50 million.
Arsenal goes and boom, we're signing.
Real Madrid.
São Paulo sold Marquinhos, is a left winger, to Arsenal the other day. Marquinhos hasn't played not even, 100 games for the team. He's a good player, he's a winger, he's fast, but he's not ready. And they already out. And again, how many millions? So the club's not going to lose that much money to say, no, wait until he's ready. No, they're not going to do that, so.
And why would they, especially when they're paying obscene amounts of money? Like we've seen with like Vinny Jr., Neymar, there's a lot of players that get signed for, in excess of £50 million.
But I would say Neymar is Neymar made out. Like what he did in Brazil
Neymar did, yeah.
before he left, it was amazing.
And he
won.
stayed.
He won every. Yeah, he stayed. So remember he was linked to Barcelona, Real Madrid. Real Madrid. He was ready, set to go to Real Madrid, and then he said, "No, I'm gonna stay a little bit more."
Yeah,
you know what I
right.
mean? And then he went to win Libertadores, Brasileiro, everything, and then he became what he is now. You know, but before he left, he's done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He achieved a lot.
Nowadays he gave.
There are a lot of Brazilians that moved overseas that did a lot more on the pitch than what Neymar did in the tabloid, like in the things. Like we've seen some amazing Brazilians. I think that's the biggest thing about the Brazilian pool. Like there is so many talented footballers. Did you have that sort of dream as well? Like, did you have in your age group that you saw people go overseas? Is that something that was a tasteful thing for you?
Every player in Brazil, that's exactly the same dream. Because we in Brazil, we grow up, you got no other choice. Here you can play basketball, you can play tennis, you can study, you can run your parents' business.
Yeah.
You got too many choices.
Lucky
In
country.
Brazil, you got one choice. What's your choice? Your parents, they work as hard as they can to earn just enough to put food on the table and pay the bills. Yeah? And then what they do, they hope that their kid has one talent that they can go there and sort it out. Like, he's going to make it.
Yeah.
And then usually it happens like they have 1 or 2, 3 brothers. So one brother starts, and then the second one goes, "Oh, that didn't work out. I'm gonna go work." Next one goes. So next one goes start trying it. Oh, didn't work out. Next one goes. Next one, and that's how it happens. Most of the players are like that.
That's insane. So you all end up trying to work out a way to provide for your family.
That's it.
That is
That's
absolutely
it.
incredible.
So they have no other choice. So imagine you're in that situation and you go and try out for the club, and they say, you gotta make it. Like there was no other choice. I don't have food on the table. My parents can't pay the bill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they have that pressure already in there.
There's a level of desperation there that it would be so hard for Australians to understand, for one, to empathise with and to be able to reproduce. Like, you can't tell me a kid that's paying $2,000 in fees a year has the same desperation as a kid that needs to make it so his family can eat.
Exactly. There's nothing against obviously families and the situation in Australia is completely different.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Obviously that's one
blessed,
of the
right?
reasons why I'm here, because this is an amazing country that offers so many opportunities for you to succeed in life. I want my kid to, obviously he's growing up here, so I don't want my kid in Brazil, but in saying that, I wish I could have my kid for 6 months in Brazil and 6 months here.
Yeah. Well,
So he could understand the hustle and value those things.
the hard
You know what
effort,
I
but
mean?
also the passion for family. I think that's the best thing about Australia for a lot of footballers that have come to the A-League now, but also in the back days. We'll talk about I think Paul mentioned it. I think like you see a lot of the next generation of Australian, Brazilian footballers, one being Fernando, who plays at Adelaide United now. His father, I should have researched this, is yeah. So like he played overseas, everything came to Adelaide, played Adelaide, Casio, that's right. The watch, I always remember that. And like you see him now, Fernando, playing for Adelaide and hopefully for the Socceroos in the future. And of course we'll talk about the Knights and stuff. So do you think that's the best thing about the South American connection to Australia? Is that it's more closer than going to Europe?
I completely agree with that. That couldn't be much more clear. We need that background. And then, as you're saying, like Casio has his kid here. I'm friends with him. I've talked to him sometimes, and then every time I speak about his son. Like he's doing this, he's doing that, and then you started watching, and the kid's growing, and he started playing now. He played the other day at the Cup, and he's a good player. He's playing as a winger, if I'm wrong. He's
Cuts in,
he's very, very good player.
There's other Brazilians, like we've got Rafael Borges, his father.
Yeah, exactly. So they have that sauce, we call. They have that little sauce. You know what I mean? It's not like plain rice. It's got a bit of a sauce in there.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
That
So
is very cool.
what?
More South American than saying different gravy.
There you go. So great player.
Yeah.
He's got the background. His dad is giving all this knowledge and all the experience he's got to him. You know what I mean? So he's giving the street smart.
Samba.
That's the street smart samba. That's what I think sometimes we miss here.
Yeah.
You know, because in Brazil you're playing the streets.
Yeah.
How are you gonna learn to play against those big boys there? There was no like, oh, I'm not playing against that big boy. I'm not playing against that super tall guy. No, he's too big for me. In the streets, man. Oh, we next. Oh yeah, come, let's go. Jump in. You jump in. Whoever's playing is playing. The guy's big, tall, skill, small, whatever. You playing the game.
That's incredible.
And you don't even think about it because you know when you're going to play next? In half an hour.
So you take
And
your
it's
chance.
got kids around and waiting for play. Hey, we're next. Whoever comes in is next. So next 4, next 5, jump in.
Wow.
And then so on and so on. So whoever wins stays. Two goals, 10 minutes.
King of the court. That,
You know
that
what I
kind
mean?
of, yeah.
And
Wow.
then, you want to lose? You want to wait another half an hour to play again?
That's
No,
that is
you don't
insane.
want to. So
Yeah,
it starts from there. From when they started, kids playing in the streets or playing whatever court in Brazil, they do that. So they learn the hustle. They learn not to be afraid of players that are big or strong or this and that.
Yeah.
And
Find a way.
Yeah, I find. Look, my son's 7 years old now, and he's playing for a club. And I got kids in the club saying, "Oh, I don't want to play against those guys because they're good. Look, they're good. I don't want to play. I want to be in goals."
Yeah.
I was like, no, you have to. And they're good players. They're very good players. They got talent. Australia has so much talent that get lost in the system.
It's insane, especially the fact like you tapping on it. Then that mentality, it seems to be ingrained throughout every sort of Brazilian. And I'm going to say probably most of South America will be very similar, but it's ingrained through so many different elements of their lifestyle that there's that sense of desperation. Like you said, trying to have that time on the pitch because otherwise, if we're not playing, we're probably going to be bored. There's not much to do. Here we're very lucky.
There was no video games. There was nothing else to do.
Yeah, correct. Whereas here we've got these opportunities to do essentially whatever we want. Obviously there's people are in very different circumstances all across the world, and it's very hard to compare case to case. But I think it just proves that there is that mentality that's very different to a lot of other places in the world, in Brazil specifically. We're going to move now into your time in Australia, and you actually moved here. You moved here at a very sort of pivotal time in Australian football. The start of the A-League. It changed. That whole landscape changed quite a lot. Obviously, you wouldn't have seen too much of the NSL, but you did obviously play for South, like you mentioned. What was that like? When you came and played for South and then moved to Phoenix? What happened? How did that eventuate?
Knights.
No, Knights. Sorry, Phoenix predecessor. Yeah.
Well, I signed for South, and my first year was a transition year. It was pretty hard for me to break into the team. I remember Johnny A, which is he's assistant at Western United nowadays. So my first game, he put me as a defensive midfielder. And for me, I was like, what's going on here? We play Green Gully away, and we lost 1-0. And then second game, we played Preston Lions at home. We lost 1-0. And I'm playing as a defensive midfielder. I was like, that's not my role, but I wanted to break into the team, so I want to play.
Yeah.
I don't think he had too many choices as well, and that's why I think he wanted to give me a choice because all the supporters started going, hey, we have a Brazilian on the team. Why don't you play?
Yeah.
They didn't even know if it was good or not. The guy just got a Brazilian chuck him in there. He's going to play. He's going to win games. But yeah, I started playing like that. So first game against Preston Lions, it was fight in the grandstands. They were throwing coins at us. It was crazy. It was horses coming through the field after the game. Channel 10, Channel 11, everything was it was crazy. It was crazy. And I remember thinking about it. I was like, wow, I love this. Like, I grew up with this.
So this would have been what, around 2004, 2005?
Five. That was 2005. So that's when I started playing. And then obviously later that year, I started playing my position and started scoring a few goals and playing well. So I finished up that season in a good note. So I started in 2006 season as a starter, and then everything went really well from there. Finishing up with South, we won the championship.
Yeah.
New Zealand Knights, because I was doing trials with Brisbane Roar. What's his name? Myron Blyberg.
Oh, yeah.
I went to do trials with him. He's a funny man. He's a very interesting character. So we did trials here, trials there, and then remember Victor didn't want to sign me as well for some reason, or obviously, I don't know. So I ended up going there. That was my chance. I was like, that's my chance. So I signed there. The club was full shambles.
Wow.
So I remember getting there. Players didn't care much. Like, so you see the players by body language, they care about, they want to win. They were like, I don't want to be in situations. And you see other players with 2 years contract with no relegation. So
There's a bit of a relaxed
what
approach
are
for
they
them.
gonna do? They go, oh, we lost by 10, 15 points behind the second last. Who cares? We'll go next year. We can rebuild.
So what was your circumstance there in terms of contracts? Like you were loaned out by South, right?
I replayed, South, I don't think South get anything because I was finished my season here, and then that was it. Then my contract, usually the local contract is just you get paid per game.
Yep.
So that was it. Contract was finished.
I think it's a more professional matter now to local football contracts.
I think it's
back
changed.
then it was a bit different. Back then it was a bit more under the table, giving a bit of kickbacks. But I think that was the big thing about the A-League when it started, because it was promised this whole new business sort of side of football. And then, of course, when the imports started coming and people were like, how are we going to fix this?
Yeah.
I was just looking at the logo. Yeah, I can see what kind of shambolic system. They've literally just got the Champions League ball, removed the middle star and put the fern in there.
You're right.
But how was it for you, like being from Brazil, going to Australia, but then playing for a team in New Zealand?
It was good. It was experience.
I think the main question, did you think New Zealand was a part of Australia?
No, not really. I'm not that dumb.
He's not Ronaldo level where it's like,
I'm
who
not
is
that
Australia?
dumb. I was aware of New Zealand, obviously, because when we come from Brazil, we come through Chile and then around New Zealand, and then
You just point to this island. New Zealand.
yeah. So New Zealand.
Were you
New
the
Zealand-
first South American player at New Zealandites or in the A-League
No,
team?
we had a Portuguese player there. I forgot his name.
I know there was a player called Daniel.
Was
Was that after you?
that was after.
Because I think he was one of the first
that was
Brazilians
after. That was after. That was
became
after.
Australian after taking up
Yeah,
Australian.
So that was after.
That's a
I was
throwback.
there before.
That's a
That was
show I
a
want.
Portuguese player there. It was a good player as well, but I forgot his name and he just slipped it on my.
So you would have played with Shane Smeltz?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, so what is he maybe the season after he might have started?
He's maybe 1 or 2 after,
Oh,
I'd
wow,
say.
okay. Yeah.
Because in the season after, like I remember last game of the season, I didn't want to stay anymore because.
Shambolic?
Yeah, well, I wanted to come back, and then my wife's arriving in Melbourne. My girlfriend at the time, but my wife is now, she arrived in Melbourne, so I wanted to get back to Melbourne. So when I went back to Melbourne, I got a call from Rick Herbert, yeah. She apparently not apparently, when I was that happened. So the president walked away.
Okay.
And then left the club, for nothing. And then the federation had to step in and take over the club.
Yeah.
So they called Rick Herbert, and then he took over. Bro, only for the last game of the season against Melbourne Victory at home, he only 8 or 9 players came down. And then he started making calls around Victoria to get players. So he got me, he got Steve Odor, he's got Fleming, he's got a few players around, VPL at the time.
Yeah.
And he just made it up a team on the spot. Wow. And we played Victory under 25,000 people at Olympic Park.
It's a bit like, like your ringings for futsal, like, your social
Exactly.
competition. Monday night, like,
To
hey,
see-
can you play? This guy can't, he's at work.
You know what I mean? So look at the situation the club
Yeah,
had
wow.
to go through. And obviously I went there and I played and I helped him out. He goes, please help me out because I know you still have a contract.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, I'll play that game. That's no problem. So I was here anyway. So I ended up playing that game.
Yep.
We lost, I think, 4-0 at home. But yeah, it was different. For me, it was more like a chance to go in there and trying to show my talent and trying to make it to the next level.
It could be a pathway, right? Like
Exactly.
it might move you. It might, whether you stayed within Australia after that, you might have been an opportunity to go to another club over into a different country. You could have moved to Asia.
Exactly. Even to go to a better club within Australia, like A-League or.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. It was different circumstances. It wasn't the way I wanted to be, and I said, you know what, I want to go back to South. I want to, start again, and then. I stay here. I ended up staying here because for me, I was happy here. I was happy with what I had at South at the time, and
That's
then
And that's obviously important too, right? Because you've made a big enough move to come from one country to another. You still need to enjoy your life, and if you're not getting that fulfillment and that certainty too, right? You probably moved because you needed like a secure job, a secure income. You had a family on the way, which you probably didn't know about at the time.
But that's one of the reasons I choose because I wanted to be, I wanted I want to be where I was loved. I want to be where I was happy,
Yeah.
and then I was gonna build a life behind that as well. So and then obviously everything worked out well. So
That's good.
Yeah.
I was going to ask one more question about the A-League. I don't know if you wanted to tap into that.
I think I was
topic
just
yet.
saying that they only won 6 games in 2 seasons,
Wow.
Knights. And Danny Rodriguez, was that the player?
Danny Rodriguez,
I was
yeah,
just looking, they had
Danny,
some
yeah.
nice imports. For 2 years, they had Japanese players, they had English players, Dean Bursley.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they had some
Besley
amazing...
was a right back, nice guy. They had man, they
analysts
had
there.
yeah, they had a very good a lot of English players.
So they had Simon Yeo from England, Neil Emblin.
Neil
Lonnie
Emblin
Bull,
was
Ben Fowler.
from I think he got signed from Wolverhampton. Like he was playing for a smaller club and he got signed for Wolverhampton for a ridiculous amount of money. And then he was a massive player and such a nice guy. He's still involved in the game.
Even
I think it's-
Chevsky.
Wow.
Yeah, like they go. John Asali, I think he went from South Melbourne to there as well.
Yeah, it's crazy to think like what club like that, but I don't know, something about the whole New Zealand Knights like creation and the fact that it embezzled and became Phoenix. I think would it have scared you coming from Brazil where clubs have run for years and years, and then we'll talk about the last subject. But like, do you think like that showed you that was no stability in the potential for Australian football, like professional?
No, not really. I never looked that way.
As an outsider?
Yeah, I never looked that way. I always looked to what's going on at the time, and obviously every business has its problems, and you know you have to deal with
You
that.
look at football now, everyone's going bankrupt almost.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Nowadays, it's more into it. People know more information about it. Back in the days, it was more, I'm playing here, club is folding, what can we do? Move on.
And those games you were part of, either on the pitch or on the bench, what did you think about Australian football in the early days compared to now? Like, you know, going to somewhere like, forgive me, was it Olympic Park?
Lincoln Park, yeah.
Did you play away there?
Yes.
Yeah. How was the experience? Because I know I've been to a few games. I am a Melbourne City Heart fan, and I have gone to the early days. I remember, you know, Danny Kitzbitzler and all these Danny Allsops. And how was the atmosphere? I'm not sure if Paul, did you ever go to a game?
Yeah, heaps. It was great.
It was
I loved
a
it.
beautiful place.
It was great. It was great. It was about, as I say, I don't know how many people fit that. 20,000 people fit in that Olympic village. I'm not 100% how many, but it was full house. It was full house. It was a good atmosphere. In my opinion, the players were much better back then. Were more quality. They were much focused on
The shirt.
Yeah, they were much focused on I don't know. Nowadays, for me, football is too much of physicality. If you don't run your 12 Ks a game, you're gonna be on the bench because you don't work for me. Like that's not. I don't need a player. I need a player that can run the 12, and then I can see what we can do after with the ball.
That's a big comparison.
That's in my opinion, because you got players that can play with the ball. Sometimes they're not a little bit heavier or a little bit slower. That's their body genes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again,
Yeah. Well, you look at, like, say, Carlos Hernandez, right? Like, he was probably
What
one
a
of the
player.
most unanimously loved players. But there's no way you're telling me he's running more than 10 Ks a game.
No.
Like,
What was his
No.
nickname? The Fox?
I can't remember.
but
What was his
that's
nickname?
but that's what I'm saying. Like, why would you? In nowadays, do you reckon he would be playing here?
No, not a
No,
chance.
because
Not a
he's
chance.
he's the kind of player, like his genes are like that. So he will be fighting against his body weight to keep fit by every single game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you're gonna put the guy on the bench that he can give you a free kick, a goal.
This is the sad
Or he
part.
can give you a through ball that he can, finalize the game.
He can play 10 minutes of brilliance and,
You know
and
what I
cut a
mean?
game apart with 3-0 and leave
Man,
it.
that was I grew up watching Romario. Romario was, if not the most amazing player I've ever seen playing live. That guy, he wouldn't run like 5 Ks in the game.
Yeah.
But you give him the ball in the right area, it's a goal.
And he make things happen.
And then next day you go, I'm not training.
Yeah.
And then next day, I'm not training.
Party time.
You know what I mean? No, sometimes
Yeah,
he goes, I train, but everyone talked about him not being not wanting to train or not training hard enough. He used to say, I train whatever I need to be trained. I train finishing. I train sprints, 5 meters, 10 meters, and that's it.
Yeah.
He's got a talent.
That's so
Why
funny.
don't you use that talent?
Yeah, it's a
You know
good
what I
point.
mean?
It's very interesting, right? Like,
Because nowadays, it's obviously the modern player does everything. He can play left back, he can play right back, he can play midfield, he can play defensive midfield, he can play number 6, number 10. Nowadays, all the numbers, yeah? The modern players, they can do everything.
Yeah.
It was very much specialized.
You know what I mean?
I
You
just-
got a number 10, you just leave the number 10 there, give him the ball, and let him do the
Let him
job.
do it. There's not much of that anymore, is there?
There's not
It's gone.
much.
I
Not
saw,
much.
I saw a video of Ronaldinho the other day when he was at Milan, and it's like you see the Milan squad warming up, going through drills, and he's just like juggling the ball in the corner, comes on, and it was like an absolute piss take game. Like he just, I can't remember who they were playing. They tore him to shreds. So yeah, that's a good segue into the next section. I guess this is not so much a football technical specific question, but in terms of how the A League's structured now, with, like you mentioned before, no relegation, so you get players with that attitude. The final series, best case scenario, what would you like to see? How would you like to see the league structured?
I reckon start from a youth league, or like from every club has to have a youth team, and they have to play against each other.
Yep.
Obviously, in any other competition. Not like I'd say Melbourne City, Melbourne Victory, they're playing NPL 1, NPL 2, NPL 3, whatever they're playing.
Yep.
I don't think that's the right thing to do. But obviously they have to play the game.
Yeah.
But I also agree that they have to play where they can play.
Yeah, I guess it's
So-
the expense of throwing a youth team, around the country in a
Exactly.
country as big as ours, right? What about
Exactly.
promotion relegation?
Promotion relegation, that's no-brainer.
Yeah,
How can you not have promotion and relegation? That was not, again, they put no pressure on the last team.
I don't think there's
Let's
enough
rebuild for the
population
next
in
season.
Australia
That's it.
still
That's
to have
the-
that pro
it's
rel
no-
situation.
It's no culture.
Yeah.
It's no culture. How can you have a league without promotion and relegation?
for me, I'm the same. I know, like, your opinion's a little bit sort of different to both of ours. I think I'm in that boat too. I feel like that, it lacks, like, I don't know. There's like a lack of emphasis on like winning what they call minor premiership, which I hate that name.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like that's such an achievement. Like it's 3 to 6 months worth of grinding your absolute ass to the bone, and because of a final series, you don't get the accolades that you deserve. So, what's your take then? Would you prefer to have?
I love finals.
Yeah.
I love finals. That I grew up with finals, and I for some reason I love it because I think to be a big player or to be a big team, you need to go through those things.
So, would you prefer a final series like we have at present, or like a cup, like the Australia Cup?
I'll prefer final series.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Final
Interesting.
series, because again, wouldn't you go? How good is to have a grand final?
Mm-hmm.
How good is to have a
Was
semi-final?
that first, second, or was that sixth playing first because they won all the semis to get
Whatever way it is, I'd say, because you always, again, you give the first team a better chance to make the final.
Yep.
If they lose the first game, they come back.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty about it. You play well the whole season, you consistent, and you get your points, and you win the minor premiership. Can you go into a final and have that pressure about it, playing away from home and winning that game? You know what I mean? Because you needed to win that game, not because
Makes sense.
it's part of the league. If we win that, we're 6 points ahead. If we lose, it's all right. We win a good run, all right. We're going out there and we beat the team away from home.
Yeah.
That's all right. But when you have that pressure and if something's on the line, that's different.
So it forces you to do it on the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Be the best team on the day. Yeah, I like that. That's good.
Exactly.
Look, I think I've asked you probably too many questions. I don't know if Alex has got any more that he wants to bring
This
into.
will definitely have the full episode on its own. I think it's like 30 minutes.
It is. It's almost worth it, isn't it? Yeah.
I think do you have any hot fire questions quickly for him before we? I know we see him every day. We can always do future
Yeah, I know.
episodes.
No, look, to be honest, they were the main questions I really wanted to ask. So I think that's
I'll do
for me.
3 quick questions for you, and that's it. Corinthians or Sao Paulo?
Have you got the knife? Where is it? Where is it? I'm about to stab someone today.
Daytime football, nighttime football?
Nighttime football.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple. Liverpool, Manchester, United.
Right now, Liverpool, but I don't mind Manchester. But I'm kind of like Tottenham. I'm a big fan of Tottenham.
You're Sao Paulo, so it's pretty nice.
And then my kid is City now, so he's that's.
Well, wait, you say City now. What was he before?
Liverpool.
You can't choose. He's got to choose one team.
I told him. He's São Paulo. I say São Paulo. That's it. But you got to choose. Obviously,
Yeah.
choose a team. So he started watching.
Friendship's
He
making
watched
it
a
up.
lot. And then when Liverpool started to play really well and started winning,
So he'll
all
be a
the
United
time-
fan
Yeah.
by the end of it.
Yeah, well, and then he changed to City because City and now started winning, scoring goals. We used to watch all the highlights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever you watch, more goals, and he was like, Jesus.
So
So he's going crazy.
He's going to be at that age now where he starts supporting the Brazilian
Yeah.
player that will
Yeah.
make him
Yeah.
memories, you know.
He loves his
So-
Jesus.
Yeah,
he loves
so
Jesus.
maybe he's an
I don't know
Arsenal
just
fan.
His name or yeah, I know.
Killing
But he's upset. He's upset, Dad. I know we're watching the highlights. Yeah, last night. Or,
Yeah, from Arsenal.
Yeah. And he goes, can't believe he left, Dad. Can't believe
This
it's
is
not
so good
fair.
because he's
Him
7.
and Sterling
Yeah,
is go, Dad. Jesus and Sterling left. I said, but you got good players now. But he's sticking with City now.
But
But,
that's the
I don't think
heartbreak.
he's changing anymore because I told him, I said, that's it. You stick with one and that's it.
I love that that's ingrained in him, and he's 7. Like he feels that. Oh, I hated losing that player because
Yeah.
he was so good for us, and like that's what we feel, right? Like as adults, we're like, oh, it would have been great if he stayed. Would have been great if it worked out. Like Hazard when he left Chelsea for me, I was like, why? Please don't. Like no, I feel like my wife had left me. Like
For me, the closest thing for me would have been when Beckham left United. You know,
Yeah.
that sort of close age. Wasn't that early, but that's the thing.
It's about 78 years ago. So this is going.
Hey, that's when I was a kid, but I'm saying like that's for
2003,
your son.
2004.
I think that's what's
I know.
going to make
That's
him
what's gonna
sort of
make, you're right.
have that emotion. But I think, yeah,
That's the feeling you want to have, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, because of me as well, obviously, we watch a lot. We watch the highlights. We watch the games. He goes, Dad, can we wake up 5 o'clock in the morning? Because remember the
So wake up
Champions
tomorrow
League
at 5
finals?
o'clock.
Yeah.
He goes like, oh, Dad, can we wake up again? So we watched 2 or 3 Champions League finals together already.
That's so good.
And he goes, Dad, can we wake up 5 o'clock to watch any games? And I say, man, it's Thursday today. Tomorrow is Friday. There was no games on. Because just let's wake up 5 o'clock in the morning. So he's got that 5 o'clock in the morning
that is so good.
to watch the games.
We've both got like our kids are way too young to be at that level yet. Like they're barely talking. Oh, one's not talking. But it's like to get to that. I think that for me is a goal. Like I'd love to share that with my
I
son.
can't wait.
Yeah.
I think, look, we'll let you go back to work because I'm sure your staff keep looking here like, where the fuck's Fernando?
What's going on?
For all the football purists, this is our inaugural shirt. Of course, when we edit this, my camera's dead. This is their inaugural shirt. I know the back has been treated really nicely, but this is what happens. Fernando, we are so blessed to have you.
Got a quick story about that shirt.
Oh, tell us.
That shirt, when I arrived, was my first or second game against Adelaide in
Yeah.
Adelaide
Oh,
United.
yeah.
So when that shirt arrived on a post package, they gave it to us. We were having breakfast and all the players and all that. So one of the guys, the manager, got the package, opened out the package. It's got Romario shirts in it.
Oh, what?
And then he goes, what? And I was like, oh, give
me
it
that,
give it to me. Because that was Romario's first game for Adelaide. And then obviously that was my second game, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then he looked around and he was like, oh, there's another one, 2 in here. So it was 4 shirts, 2 of mine, 2 of Romario. So
Wow. Wait, so you played against Romario in his debut game?
I didn't play that
Oh, you
game.
didn't play. Did you
Yeah.
speak to him?
Yeah, I did.
How was
Jeez,
that? Like,
he
'cause
signed my shirt. Man, that guy's a god for me.
Well,
Man.
because seeing a fellow Brazilian for him would have been like a little bit of a breath of fresh air. I don't
Yeah,
think his time
yeah.
here, I think, was a little sour from
But
what I
they
understand,
didn't
but-
understand. They didn't understand. They wanted him to slide tackle, to run, to do things like you play for the guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Living there, he would
do the job.
do the job.
Yeah, I didn't really enjoy the time when he was here, as in enjoy the sort of presence during the time.
Yeah,
But
underappreciated.
now-
But
Yeah.
they were like the supporters didn't understand. The players didn't understand. I think he was crucified here.
Yeah,
you
that's
know what I
the
mean? Oh,
A-League
he's
back
just
then.
here
Now
for the
it's a bit
money.
different now.
You know, he's here for the money. He's here for this. Man, he's here for the money. Is Romario. Do you know who Romario is? Do you know what he's done
Del
for
Piero
football?
had a different respect. I know we can speak, but we'll do another episode.
But he's a
This is
different
going to
player.
like.
Yeah, different player. So that
thank
we
you.
can go. We can go for another 3 hours.
Honestly, you need to go back to work because I had like I'm the one that has to face everyone there.
What did you call it? Was it when you just don't want to stop talking about football? In Brazil, what is it called?
Resenha.
Resenha. Okay, that's
We
right. We have
can
to change the name of the
we
podcast, I
can,
think.
yeah, Resenha. We can-
Thank you so much, Fernando. Please go back to work because
Anytime.
we're going to get in trouble from you
Nah,
and
no.
your staff. Paul and I, we just want to say thank you again. Anything you want to say before I say bye?
No, this is great. It was great to have. You're our first guest on this, which is amazing. So we're
There you
very
go.
privileged. And
We're
it
not
was
really
great.
going to have many guests. I think we do have guests. It's going to be the special ones.
Yeah.
We like to make sure this podcast is always a bit more sort of, fluent. But as always, we are so thankful for having you, and we'll definitely have you in future episodes. To everyone, thank you so much
Appreciate.
for watching.
Thank you very much.
Stay safe. Stay away
Pleasure.
from stupid people. And Fernando's going to say something to say goodbye. Is there anything you want to say?
Thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure to be here
Anything in
with you too.
Portuguese?
Obrigado, meus amigos. Vamos na
A
resenha.
tradition in this podcast, we stand up and walk away from the direction you don't want to go.
Let's
if we
walk
walk
away.
into each other, that's just tradition. Just
I
be
might-
careful, he's old.
I might put my hand in, bro.
Don't worry. Thank you guys.
Thanks,
See ya.
man.
See you later.